Hi, my name is Ashley Goucher, and I will be discussing my literature thesis. Within the following slides, I will go through my main concept, forms, and inspirations before ending with a small excerpt from my piece. I have written a meta-romance novel for my thesis project, focusing on the themes of women's agency and criticism. The main focus of my work is to express these criticisms of what women choose to do for work and what they choose to read as an overall commentary on agency, while also shining a light on the positionality of sex workers in our everyday lives and finding humanity in these women who are highly criticized or victimized for their work. As an avid reader of the romance genre, I know that there are affordances that allow for bringing humanity and relationships with others to the foreground of a piece while simultaneously speaking on societal issues. As one example, romances are known to have happily ever afters or happy for now endings, which bring all the struggles seen through the piece into a positive light, sending a message of hope to readers. These conventions allow for escapism and inspiration to those who read romance. I wanted to experiment with those affordances and see why this genre is stigmatized when it has one of the farthest reaches in literature. I also wanted to explore how this reach can create more diversity and societal enlightenment in a more timely manner due to the high production of this genre. My story is about Vera, who is a sex worker trying to work in her degree field. We follow Vera through this journey that will bring light to the stigmas of sex work and how they are in conversations with the inequalities within the corporate world living in patriarchal standards. Grant, who works in the publishing industry, is our love interest, who has to come to realization that he has been afforded a privileged life and tries to learn the ropes of Vera's as an outsider. My influences for this piece include critical works such as Revolting Prostitutes, The Fight for Sex Workers' Rights by Molly Smith and Juno Mack, Dangerous Books for Girls, The Bad Reputation of Romance Novels Explained by Maya Rodal, Natural History of the Romance Novel by Pamela Regis, and Sex Work Matters, Power and Intimacy in the Global Sex Industry, mixed with some creative works like Bromance Book Club by Lissa K. Adams, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and The Service by Frankie Mirren. I used these works to inspire how to tell a realistic story of an escort, a normal girl trying to work through daily criticisms from others within a patriarchal society. I resembled the romance genre in ways of craft, creating a point of view for each character, but with the main focus on Vera's growth and struggles as she tries to open up in a world that has made her closed off. As most romance novels focus on the woman's perspective more so than the man's in a heteronormative relation, the dialogue and characterization were an important part of my crafting as well, as it is arguably the most important aspect in romance novels for these two people to realistically be connecting with one another. I took from my creative inspirations mentioned in the last slide, along with many more in real life to try and make this possible. The excerpt I will be reading is from a culminating point in the novella where the love interest Grant finds out about Vera's job, or side job as he sees it, because of Luke hiring her on his behalf. Vera, his voice projected before she slammed the door shut. Her bag fell to the floor, a few items of clothing spilling out from the unzipped center. She leaned on the counter and took a second to breathe, though Grant didn't waste a moment with the instant knock on the door. Vera, I didn't call you that. She pushed off the counter and turned to look at the door. You didn't have to, Grant. I would never do that. She scoffed. You don't have to convince me what you would or wouldn't do to clear your conscience. The silence made her think about how she was projecting past experiences onto him. She sighed and whispered a quiet fuck under her breath. She felt bad until a thump came through the door. Why are you being so difficult? Vera charged the door and swung it open, Grant fumbling with his weight that was leaning against the surface. Me, I'm being difficult. His glare softened, and the look on his face showed that he was thinking carefully about the next words out of his mouth. He thought one wrong word would break her like a hammer to glass. He thought I was weak. I just exposed a very incriminating part of my life to you without consent, and you think I'm being difficult? Her hand was still on the knob of the door, a position that felt so familiar from all the times he's come over to complain about her music volume. A guy she not only saw every day at work, but conveniently lived right next door, knew everything now. Well, not everything, but it felt that way as she tried to calm the shakiness in her hands. He looked down. You're right. No shit. His gentle features vanished at her retort as his eyes swung back up. You don't get to be an asshole, though, Vera. I'm not trying to do anything but understand what's going on. She crossed her arms, pulling a finger to her chin and tapping it repeatedly. Well, let's see. Your employee hired me from my friend's site to calm you down. Crossing an employee-employer line that I will never understand why you allow. She looked back to him. His tie was falling to the floor and a few buttons of his shirt undone, the red tint on his skin a permanent fixture. So by sheer luck, or universal fate, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I was chosen to be your relaxation for the night. Does that help clear this up?